Screen printing water-based can give you the ultimate premium quality hand and feel, but it's a little bit harder to do on a manual press. That's where the Rudy press really steps up your screen printing game. Let's break down the job. We're printing two different types of fabrication. First of all, our A4 performance fabric, which is 100% polyester and will need a blocker underbase. Our all-made organic cotton, which is a 30 singles, very great printing surface and will not need that underbase. For mesh, we're using a 156 standard mesh on both our blocker base and our white base. And for our overprint, we're using a 196. Our inks will be HSA Green Galaxy. Our underbase would be the Gamma Blocker. Then our Comet White for our white print and underbase. And then our yellow will be Galactic Gold, which is a hybrid high solids and low solids ink, a little bit thinner. For squeegees, we're using a triple durometer squeegee for our blocker because it's a little thicker and harder to get through the screen, and then just standard 70 durometer squeegees for our other two prints. As we start to print this job, I'm gonna heat the platens up and start to load our inks in the screen. So why is screen printing water-based a little bit harder on a manual press? Well, at HSA, it always starts out super nice and creamy in your press. But as that ink starts to coagulate up, it can be a little bit difficult. First of all, on a manual, we typically try to conserve ink. That means we're not putting a lot of ink, which actually is not great for water-based printing because the ink starts to dry out more. And as that ink starts to dry out, it becomes much more difficult to print. With the Rudy press, we're gonna load a lot more ink, very similar to what you would do on an automatic screen printing press. This keeps the ink wetter and easier to print throughout the cycle. Also, as it starts to harden up a little bit and become more stiff, that Rudy press gives us a lot more pressure to print with. Starting with the all-made sure stay because we're gonna use the blocker last. Now, the other great thing about the Rudy press is you can see as I flood that screen, those wing flood bars, they keep the ink in the center of the screen versus a manual squeegee, that ink's going all the way across the sides. When our ink is centered out, it keeps it from moving to the edges and keeps more ink in one space, which keeps it from drying out. We got a perfect flood going with this Rudy press and a double print stroke on the base. Now you notice with the Rudy press, I am pushing. When I'm printing water-based, I typically like to use a pull stroke so that I can get a little bit lower angle and make sure my ink is clearing my mesh. I don't really like pushing water-based unless it's super low solids. So with a manual squeegee, I have to flood up and then I have to move the squeegee back and then print back. With the Rudy press, I simply flood up and then print back. Now, with water-based printing, we do need to leave that screen flooded. So the one thing that we have to do is we have to raise the screen up, flood it back, and we half cock the squeegee to allow it to float back over and rest in the back position. You notice as I'm printing this HSA, I definitely need to make sure that screen clears. And water-based typically does not clear on the first time. So easy double stroke allows us to clear the screen. I don't have to put a lot of pressure, and that screen is clearing beautifully. That Rudy press really enables my pressure to be a lot easier. If I'm running fast, especially on these overprints, I might not even need to flood the screen between the two prints. Let's see how fast this goes. This is our second print. So I'm just doing one pass on that second print and it's clearing beautifully, allowing this ink to stack up nicely. Since I'm moving so fast, I don't have to do that additional flood stroke. To really get a good print here, like a Nike quality print, I'm actually gonna lay 3 bases down, but you notice with this Rudy, this is moving very quick, even though I'm doing so many print strokes. Now it's time for our overprint. We need to adjust the flood on this overprint, bringing this flood up a little bit. So I loosen that knob. That's a good flood right there. And then adjust my print to allow me to print down all the way. With this overprint, we need to lay a little bit more ink down. So we're gonna lower our angle just slightly. We got a good flood going on there now. And then we've lowered our angle so that we just do a little bit of pressure. With this HSA, this is a medium solid, so it has about 20% high solids in it, but then it has about 80% low solids. So it's super thin. You don't need a lot of pressure, just a quick flood and double pass over. Very similar to the last print, we're gonna be double stacking this. So we're going around twice. This flood bar does such a good job of keeping this ink centered in the screen, really saving it from moving to the sides, which is so nice when you're water-based printing. Remember to leave that screen flooded and then half cock it back. This is why I love HSA. Look how good that print came out. It's super soft, very bright and opaque. Feels great. Feels like something you would buy in the store. Now we're gonna move to our A4 performance fabric. I'm using a little bit of spray mist to make sure I have a good adhesion down along with my water-based glue. Sometimes that's helpful with water-based printing on polyester fabrics. Then I'm gonna load up my black blocker base. You can see how much thicker the black blocker base is. Again, I wanna lay a lot of this down to allow that ink to stay wet in the screen. Another trick too is if I'm leaving my other screens open, you can take a little bit of spray bottles and just spray that water in there, flood up. And then I'm using my triple durometer. Got a medium angle there. Let's see how that prints. I'm gonna do 3 passes to get this going. And then I am gonna leave that flooded as I start to release the ink. Okay, that did a great job. We're gonna run our whole round of these guys. I think I need to lower that flood just a little bit on this guy. Okay, I'm gonna leave that ink flooded while I go through my next print rotation. Now we lay down our white overprint. That ink stayed nice and wet in the screen. Clearing beautifully still on that second pass. That looks great. Needed 3 passes because I got a little bit close to the arm here. This blocker keeps that dye migration from happening on this royal blue shirt. Without that, you're gonna really see some dye migration start to come through and it's not gonna look very good. For the last coat, I'm just doing 1 print again. That gives it that Nike retail finish. So this only has 2 white underbases. It only needs that 2 white underbases because it has that 1 underbase of blocker. Okay, for our overprint, we'll make sure to leave that screen flooded. Cock it back, and then onto the overprint. The Rudy press does such a great job printing this water-based ink. It really just reminds me of printing water-based on a rock. How easy it is. Okay, 1 final top coat. Extreme white, great quality and detail here. Just an amazing print. That Rudy press really gave me even pressure, allowing for an even print stroke and a great result with this HSA ink on this performance fabric. Great quality and consistent results. Screen printing HSA water-based with the Rudy press. If you like what you saw in this video, comment below or take a screen printer that hasn't printed with water-based or is having problems printing with water-based. Give us a like, follow our channel, and check out all these awesome screen printing supplies on screenprinting.com. Thank you for powering your print with Ryonet.